Hey guys, how's it going? Josh here. Hope everybody's having a great day. It's Friday, TGIF. Also, Big Orange Friday for those who don't know. So I always try to wear some Vol merch when we're on here, but especially today with it being Big Orange Friday. Great night of football last night. That game between Ole Miss and Miami's certainly one of the best games of the year. You know, I know it's a cliche thing to say in sports, but it's difficult to see either one of those teams win. Especially Ole Miss, with everything that happened with Lane quitting, not Kiffin, but quitting. Certainly cheering for them. Golding, Chambliss, the news that came out today that extra year of eligibility wasn't granted, but I do think he'll get an opportunity in the league as he should. He's a dynamic, great athlete, and hopefully he gets those reps as needed. And kudos to Miami. Aside from Michael Irving being a crazy person on the sidelines, there's former Vol there, Jacoby Thomas, that absolutely adore, and he's doing amazing. So again, great football. And here in about 15 minutes, they're going to be kicking off Indiana and Oregon. Fingers crossed that game will be just as good as the game that we just saw last night. But I digress. It's not the point of the video today. The point of the video today is, what is Tennessee doing at quarterback in the transfer portal here? So earlier this week, probably right around a week ago, when the portal opened, we went through some scenarios based off the information that we had at that time. My projection was Ty Simpson ends up at Tennessee, Sam Leavitt at LSU, and maybe Joey gets another year of eligibility. Things have moved. As we know, if we take a look at Tennessee specifically, we hosted Sam Leavitt after he visited LSU. By all reporting, it appears as though Sam Leavitt was somewhat frustrated that Lane Kiffin was actively trying to get Desmond Williams out of Washington while he was there in person with him, which prompted that visit to Tennessee. He was at Tennessee for a couple of days. Again, the reporting indicates that there was an extension in the stay, potentially some physical stuff that was being, looked at to see, is he healthy? Is he going to be good for the next year? Stuff of that nature. And again, by all accounts, it sounds like Leavitt had a great visit. As it stands currently, he's on his way to Coral Gables to visit Miami, who's going to be, in the national championship. Again, kudos to them. And then also, he, again, reportedly has interest in going to Oregon. And knowing Lane Kiffin, now that Desmond Williams can't transfer, he's probably going to be courting him pretty hard. So I'm going to take Sam Leavitt, and I'm going to stick with that initial analysis. I do not think that he's going to be a Tennessee Volunteer. I could be completely wrong, so feel free to clip this if that is the case. But if I'm being candid, he was not necessarily someone I wanted to lead the team at quarterback. Off the field issues, not listening to the coaching staff, clashing with Kenny Dillingham, coming off an injury, not being available for spring practice. Those are all things for me, and that price tag when we have gaping holes in our defense that need to be addressed. Those were all things that I felt as though should be addressed first and foremost, and the tag that we would have to pay for him just did not warrant it for me. So moving on, where does that leave Tennessee? And it's very eerily similar, minus the Ty Simpson aspect, to where we were about a week ago. Josh Heupel has not necessarily, as far as we know, done a ton of recruiting in the portal as it relates to a quarterback, which makes me think that he's really holding out that Joey Aguilar is going to be granted another year of eligibility. It was reported around 3 hours ago that there is going to be a meeting held on Monday, January 12th, to address that eligibility. So a lot of us expect that eligibility will be cleared up then. in my grand world of druthers, I would druther Joey Aguilar be our quarterback next year. So fingers crossed that this video ages well, and come this time Monday afternoon, Joey Aguilar has been granted that one additional year of eligibility and is going to be the incumbent quarterback for the University of Tennessee. But let's say worst case scenario, what happens if that doesn't happen? And again, when it comes down to a judge, Josh Heupel has to have contingency plans in place, and that leads us to Beau Pribula. It's being reported by On3 today and Pete Nakos that Beau Pribula will be visiting Tennessee in the coming days on an official visit. Here we've got the statistics. As you may recall, his year was up and down. Very, at times, careless with the ball, but a big arm, and something that a lot of Tennessee fans will absolutely love, a really electric runner. The problem that we run into is that he did injure his leg. He's nursing that injury. If I'm not mistaken, he was out for a few weeks, and he finished out the season. But again, still coming off that injury, didn't exactly look the same post-injury. Now, playing in Dorkowitz's offense and playing with that team, I'm not going to say that it puts anyone more at risk for injury or it doesn't let them shine as much, but I do think you could take virtually any quarterback, right, plug them into Tennessee's offense, and they're automatically going to have a more appealing stat line than we're seeing here. Hell, if you take a look at Joey Aguilar, he led the SEC in passing this year. He did have several interceptions. I'm acutely aware of that. But compared to his time at App State, they were significantly lower. So, playing in this style of offense, your completion percentage goes up, your yards per attempt go up. Essentially, everything goes up, right? So, many are saying, like, hey, if we can't get Joey, Beau might be the guy. A little bit more on Beau here if we go to On3's, quarterback rankings. I don't want to be rude here, but when we go down here and take a look at only the quarterbacks, we do have to scroll quite a bit before we get down there to Beau Pribula. But something that jumps out at me, NIL value of around $1.8 million, right? So I think someone like Sam Levitt was carrying a price tag of $5 million, right? So what can you do with $3 million when you have all of those gaping holes on your defense? I think you can use it. You can bring in a pretty good quarterback and continue filling in those holes in the roster. So I think Beau's being viewed as somewhat of a backup plan because you have to have depth. You cannot go into the year. If Joey Aguilar is not granted that extra year of eligibility, you absolutely have to have a third warm body in there. And that leads me to my closing point here. Again, if Joey's not granted that eligibility, and if the visit goes well with Beau, again, there are a lot of things, a lot of variables here at play, but let's just play make pretend for a moment. If those things happen, what I do believe is Beau Pribula is not going to come in, similar to Joey Aguilar last year, as the odds-on favorite to be the starting quarterback of the University of Tennessee next year. If anything, I actually think it's going to be a true three-player competition. And the reason for that is I truly do believe that they want to position George McIntyre and Faison Brandon for the most possible success and say, your future is in your hands. George McIntyre, if you want to be the quarterback at the University of Tennessee, beat this guy that we just brought in. It was a little bit different last year when Nico left us after spring training, right? George is a true freshman. You've got Jake Merklinger, who I guess is kind of in the position that George McIntyre's in right now, but no one really thought that those guys were truly ready to plug in and play. Beau Pribula has the experience at Penn State. He has the experience at Missouri. So he's someone who's experienced. He's been in the SEC. He knows what to expect. But also, George McIntyre has now sat behind Joey Aguilar. He's developed that relationship. He's been in the system. If he can put on some weight and put on some muscle, I really, really think that he will potentially be the starting quarterback next year. But again, it's going to be in his hands, and it's going to be an open competition. And there are worse things for the University of Tennessee than having brought in a veteran quarterback to push someone who's here already, who's young, who has a lot of raw talent, to potentially be that starter. So it'll be interesting to see where and how this plays out over the course of the next few days. I do think once Monday hits, whatever happens with Joey Aguilar, we will have the bow put on this relatively quickly. So if Joey's granted that extra year of eligibility, I don't think Beau will sign. I think McIntyre will stay on with the team, and of course Faison will be coming in. If Joey is not granted that extra year of eligibility, then I do think that Beau Pribula, and if that falls through, somebody, whether it's from the FCS or a lower division, or somebody, I don't know, Dylan Raiola or someone like that, right? It's yet to be determined, but somebody will come in and it'll be an open quarterback battle. But I cannot stress enough, right? I think it is good that we're not overpaying for a potential quarterback like Sam Leavitt. We have to have that money allocated to the defense. Our offense, you can plug in just about any quarterback at athlete, knock on wood, and they're going to be successful. Our defense needs a ton of work. We've got a new DC. We've got all of these Penn State players we're trying to get to help implement the system quicker. You need to get depth pieces. You need defensive backs. You need safeties. That money can be better spent on the defense. Otherwise, what do you have? At best, you have something that's similar to the 2022 team where the offense is nigh unstoppable, but the defense couldn't stop a runny nose, right? So it'll be interesting to see how the next few days play out. Again, fingers crossed. I absolutely love Joey Aguilar. Yes, there were some interceptions that cost us, right? But overall, I think he's a great person. I think he's a great face of Tennessee football, and I'd love to have another year to ride with him as Faison and George McIntyre continue to get up to speed. But we'll know more in the coming days. Please remember, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Any and all engagements greatly appreciated. We just crossed 10 subscribers. The fact that even 10 people enjoy hearing what I have to say is always something that, amazes me. So, again, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Vols!